We heat and cool our entire garage year round, and it costs us $0 in electricity. And that's because this EG4 Mini Split that we have is running entirely off solar panels we have in the yard and batteries that we store that power in here in the garage. But even if you don't have all the panels that we have or as many batteries as we have, you can still get similar results with a much simpler system. It's efficient, quiet, and affordable, and it just works all year long. So if you're looking to heat or cool a space, one of these EG4 Mini Splits could be a great option. They're also really good in a power outage, which unfortunately is happening more often these days. So welcome back to the lab where our opinions cannot be bought. We, luckily, live in a place where it is hot as fuck in the summer and cold as fuck in the winter. But before we had the mini split setup that we have going on in the garage today, we had a massive electric heater heating this place in the winter. Our hydro bills were crazy. It was a 15 kilowatt heater. It was extremely loud. We couldn't have it on when we were trying to film or anything. And then in the summer, it was a sweat box in here. We had multiple portable air conditioners running and it just wouldn't get cool.
Tiny baby was naked.
Yeah. Unfortunately, you guys never got to see it, but behind the camera in most of our original videos, Tiny Baby was running around in his diaper because he was just sweating his bag off. Anyways, we're gonna show you our new setup that we've been running since last fall. And at any point, if you're interested, we will leave links to the mini split as well as any coupon codes that we can get to save you guys some money in the description down below. We also have links to our power station quiz and some other helpful stuff for you guys down there. But before we jump into our setup, we're gonna get you guys up to speed super quick on the mini split in case you aren't already familiar with exactly what it is and how it works. So a mini split is basically a high efficiency ductless heat pump. This one happens to be from EG4. It's designed for heating and cooling spaces like garages, workshops, additions, cabins, and off-grid homes. They're good for heating anywhere, but they're especially helpful for places that don't have ducts already running to them, or where you wouldn't want to install like a traditional HVAC system just in your garage. Mini split is a perfect solution. It's very common for most of them to run on 120 or 240 volts. Ours is a big one. It runs on 240 volts, but it can also run directly from DC power, meaning you can plug solar panels straight into the mini split and it will run strictly off solar power. It's available in different size ratings. They go by BTUs. Basically, the bigger the room, the higher the BTUs you're gonna want. Our 3-car garage, we use a 24,000 BTU mini split. It's a ductless system, meaning there is no air ducts. There's an indoor handler, which is basically like the fan that blows your cool air in. And then there's an outdoor condenser, and they're just connected by refrigerant lines. And it basically just uses a refrigerant cycle to transfer heat. And it's powered by an inverter compressor. And this is what makes these really, really popular. It can adjust the speed and the power on demand, whereas a typical HVAC system is either on or off. These things can kind of throttle up or throttle down depending on the temperature and how much it really needs to change. So they're actually really efficient when you're running them. They're really quiet and they last longer than traditional units. This one specifically is remote controlled. So you can just point and shoot with this thing. You can set temperatures, modes, fan speeds, all that stuff straight from here. There's also an app that you can connect to it so you can be on your phone in a completely different part of the house and make sure that you preheat or pre-cool the space that you're going to go into. And you can also see the usage and power consumption, solar going into it, all that kind of stuff from the app, which is pretty cool. The EG4 one is also pretty cool because it has a solar first mode, which basically means it'll prioritize solar power. But if it's not available, it will use the grid as a backup, and it'll do this automatically. So you don't have to do anything. And as long as you have sunshine available, it will mostly be running off of that solar power. So now that you guys are kind of up to speed on what a mini split is, let's jump into ours and show you guys how we've been using it. So our setup has evolved a lot over time. We don't necessarily have power usage, consumption, comparing to bills and all that kind of stuff. We started by just running it straight off of physical grid power from the home, and the system has evolved with time. Right now, we basically don't have panels running directly into it, though at one point we did. What we're doing that works best for us is we have a small little off-grid setup right here in the garage. This isn't tied into our house at all. It's meant to power batteries. We have a cabinet full of EG4 LL and Life Power 4 batteries. We have an EG4 6000 XP, and then we have some plugs here. And we basically use this in the lab to bring solar in from the yard, charge up all the power stations or batteries or gear that we're testing without having to pay for electricity on it. But we also have the mini split tied directly into this system. So basically all the solar that's in our yard right now, which right now we're at what? 10, like almost 15 kilowatts out there?
Yeah, between all the arrays.
Which is a lot. We're testing a lot of stuff at the moment. The point is that 15 kilowatts is coming into the garage, it's going into these batteries, and then its first job is to power this mini split. So we don't pay at all to run this mini split. And we would recommend something like this if you were to live in anywhere that's not the desert, because in the winter months or in the spring or fall, whenever you have a rainy season, wherever you live, if you have your system running off of batteries like this, you can basically store up enough power in the batteries to run this thing for a day or 2 days, or even just overnight, so you actually never have to physically tap into the grid. In our case, these batteries are not nearly big enough to take all that solar that we have. They rarely drop below 90% because we have way more power coming in than we're actually putting out.
Sure, you could chirp us for our system. It's not optimized 100%.
Our system is basically built for testing, is what Tiny Baby's saying. It's not built to be optimized. Anyways, point is, all winter long, this thing was running and keeping the garage hot. And all summer long, it has been running and keeping the garage cold. And we haven't really had to pay for power at all. Something we have noticed is that the mini splits specifically aren't really good at cooling or heating a space that is already really cold or really hot. So if you want your air conditioning and you want your garage to be cold during the day, it's best to keep that running all night so that it can compete with the extreme heat outside. Same thing in the winter. If you want your garage warm, turning it off overnight and then turning it on in the morning isn't necessarily just gonna like crank the temperature in the garage really hot really quick. But the pro with a system like this is they are so energy efficient once they get up there, and they're just basically throttling back power to keep it at a consistent temperature, that you actually don't use a ton of power to do so. So that's our setup right now with the batteries and an inverter and the mini split, and that's how we would recommend you guys do it if you're really trying to save money. Obviously it costs money to get the system, but it's a really good setup. The other thing that you could do is just start with what you can afford. And if you can afford just the mini split, it's a really good system to get a space up to temperature, and it's honestly pretty power efficient. And they don't take a ton of power. You need like 2,500 watts worth of solar panels, which is not hard to attain, especially with a cheap solar panel ground mount, something like power racks or even those new Integra racks that we just reviewed. You can get 2,500 watts worth of solar pretty easy in your yard, run it directly into your mini split. During the day, the sun is out, you're gonna be using that solar power, so it's basically free. Overnight, if you have to tap into the grid, you're basically just gonna be using a small amount of grid power to maintain that temperature, because typically overnight it gets cooler in the summer, the air conditioning doesn't have to work so hard. Overall, it's a really cool system, and we aspire to continue to grow it and grow it and grow it.
I aspire to keep growing and growing too.
Yeah, too bad, you're 15,000 micrometers tall.
Dude, I am the toughest person at the lab.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a fight.
At the end of the day, it's a really good system. It has saved us a ton of money, and we genuinely think that you guys would really benefit from something like this. If you're looking at these, check out Signature Solar's website. Make sure you guys get something that has the solar plugs directly on it so you can run it from DC power, and something that has the solar first settings so that you don't have to manage it. It can just go back and forth between the grid, batteries, and then solar power. They do have kits on their website that's bundled with solar panels, different BTUs. If you don't know what you need, call them. We've mystery shopped Signature Solar before. They actually have really good support, and they will walk you through the process and get you something that you actually need. Just tell them the Solar Lab sent you, and they'll give you our latest discount and help you out with picking a system. So that's all we got for you guys today. Let us know if there's any other systems that you would like to see us test or show you guys how we're using them. Otherwise, we will catch you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Peace out and stay charged.